A quiet afternoon at Grandma's when a faint, desperate cry pulls you beyond the safety of the yard. 8-year-old Maya follows a bright butterfly into the woods, only to find a tiny abandoned baby lying helpless among the roots. What would you do in her shoes? Stay until the end to see how one brave child's choice unravels a shocking mystery, and tell me, where are you watching from today? Maya's heart pounded in her chest as she ran through the woods behind her grandmother's house. She wasn't supposed to be this deep in the forest alone, but the colorful butterfly had led her farther than she'd meant to go. At 8 years old, Maya knew the rules: stay where Grandma can see you, don't go past the big oak tree, and always come when called. But today, something pulled her forward past the boundaries she'd been taught to respect. The late afternoon sun filtered through the trees, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Maya's pink sneakers crunched on fallen leaves as she stopped to catch her breath. That's when she heard it, a sound that didn't belong among the chirping birds and rustling branches, a cry, faint but unmistakable. "Hello," Maya called out, her voice small in the vastness of the woods. The crying continued, and Maya followed the sound, pushing aside low-hanging branches and stepping carefully over exposed roots. As she rounded a large bush, she froze. There, nestled in a hollow between two tree roots and partially covered with leaves, was a baby, a tiny white baby with wisps of blonde hair, wrapped in a light blue blanket that was damp from the forest floor. "Oh," Maya gasped, dropping to her knees beside the infant. "How did you get here, little baby?" The baby's cries softened at the sound of her voice, tiny fists waving in the air. Maya looked around frantically, expecting to see an adult nearby, someone who must have left the baby there, but the woods were empty and quiet except for the normal forest sounds. "Mama," Maya called out loudly, "is anyone here?" "There's a baby." No answer came. Maya bit her lip, thinking hard. Grandma had taught her what to do in emergencies: find an adult, call 911, stay where you are. But there was no phone in the woods, and she couldn't leave a baby alone. As the day grew darker and colder, "It's okay," she whispered, gently touching the baby's soft cheek. "I'll help you." With great care, Maya slid her hands under the baby, remembering how Grandma had shown her to support the head when she'd held her cousin's new baby last Christmas. The infant was heavier than she expected but settled against her chest with only a whimper. "I'm taking you to my grandma," Maya told the baby. "She knows what to do about everything." The trek back seemed much longer with precious cargo in her arms. Maya walked slowly, checking her path carefully to avoid tripping. The baby had stopped crying and stared up at her with wide blue eyes that seemed too knowing for such a tiny person. "Who left you all alone?" Maya wondered aloud. "Don't worry, Grandma will call the police, and they'll find your mama and daddy." As Maya finally reached the edge of the woods, she could see her grandmother's small yellow house in the distance. The sight of it filled her with relief. Grandma would know what to do. Maya crossed the backyard as quickly as she dared, climbing the 3 steps to the back porch with careful movements. She managed to turn the doorknob with one hand while balancing the baby with the other. "Grandma," she called as she stepped inside the warm kitchen that smelled of cinnamon and apples. "Grandma, come quick. I found a baby in the woods." Her grandmother appeared in the doorway, dish towel in hand, her face transforming from confusion to shock as she took in the sight of Maya holding the infant. "Lord have mercy," she whispered, rushing forward. "Child, where did?" That's when they heard it, first one siren, then another, growing louder by the second. Blue and red lights flashed through the front windows, illuminating the living room in pulses of color. Maya clutched the baby tighter. "Grandma, why are there police here? Did they know about the baby already?" Her grandmother's expression darkened as she peered through the curtains at the police cars screeching to a halt in front of their house. 3 officers jumped out, hands on their weapons, approaching the house with purposeful strides. "Maya," her grandmother said, her voice suddenly tight with fear, "what exactly happened in those woods?" Before Maya could answer, a loud banging came from the front door, and a stern voice called out, "Police, open up immediately." "Stay behind me," Grandma whispered to Maya, gently taking the baby from her arms. The knocking grew more insistent. Maya had never seen her grandmother look so worried. "Miss Johnson, we need you to open this door now," the voice from outside commanded. Grandma took a deep breath, adjusted the baby in her arms, and walked to the front door. Maya followed a few steps behind, her heart racing. When Grandma opened the door, two police officers stood on the porch, hands resting near their weapons. A female officer stood slightly behind them. "We received an Amber Alert about a missing infant," said the tallest officer, his eyes immediately locking onto the baby in Grandma's arms. "We need to ask you some questions." "Of course, officers," Grandma replied, her voice steady despite the tremble Maya noticed in her hands. "Please come in, but lower your voices. This little one has been through enough today." The officers entered the living room, their heavy boots loud against the wooden floor. Maya pressed herself against the wall, trying to make herself invisible as the female officer spoke into her radio. "We've located an infant matching the description. My granddaughter found this baby in the woods behind our property," Grandma explained, sitting down carefully on the couch with the infant. "Maya, come tell the officers what happened." Maya stepped forward, twisting her hands nervously in her shirt. "I was chasing a butterfly in the woods, and I heard crying. The baby was just lying there between some tree roots. There was nobody else around, I promise." The female officer knelt down to Maya's level, her expression softening. "What's your name, sweetie?" "Maya Johnson." "I'm Officer Lillian. Can you show us exactly where you found the baby?" Maya nodded, though the thought of going back into the darkening woods made her stomach twist with fear. "First, we need to check on this little one," the tall officer said. "We've got paramedics on the way." As if on cue, more sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. "Miss Johnson, this is a very serious situation," said the second male officer, his notebook already out. Her 6-week-old infant, named Jacob Miller, was reported missing from his home across the county line 2 hours ago. Parents said someone broke into their house and took him from his crib. Grandma gasped. "Dear Lord, who would do such a thing?" Maya felt the weight of the officer's stares and looked down at her shoes. Why were they looking at her like that? She'd helped the baby, not hurt him. The paramedics arrived in a flurry of activity. They examined the baby, Jacob, Maya corrected herself in her thoughts right there on Grandma's couch. One paramedic, a kind-faced woman with curly red hair, smiled at Maya. "You probably saved his life, finding him before nightfall. It's getting cold out there, and he's a bit dehydrated, but otherwise seems okay." Maya should have felt proud, but the serious faces of the police officers made her feel uneasy instead. Officer Lillian checked her watch. "It's nearly dark. We'll need to do a preliminary search of the area now, but a full team will come at first light." She turned to Maya. "Would you be brave enough to show us approximately where you found him? We won't go too deep into the woods tonight." Maya nodded, though her legs felt wobbly at the thought. "I'm coming too," Grandma insisted, passing the baby to the paramedics. "I'm not letting my granddaughter out of my sight with all this going on." Outside, the sky had turned a deep purple, and the woods looked much darker and more threatening than they had earlier. Officer Lillian gave Maya a small flashlight to hold as they walked through the yard toward the tree line. 2 more police cars had arrived, and officers were stretching yellow tape around the edge of the property. "Just point us in the right direction, Maya," Officer Lillian said gently. "You don't have to go all the way in if you're scared." "I'm not scared," Maya lied, clicking on the flashlight. "It's this way, past the big oak tree." They walked in a small group, Maya, Grandma, Officer Lillian, and another officer with a much larger flashlight. Maya led them along the path she had taken earlier, recognizing certain trees and bushes even in the fading light. "It was over there," she finally said, pointing toward a thicket about 20 feet ahead, between those 2 big trees with the roots sticking out. The officer with the big flashlight moved forward, sweeping the beam across the ground. "I see a disturbed area," he called back, "and something else." He crouched down and picked up something with a gloved hand. Maya couldn't see what it was, but she saw Officer Lillian's expression change when she looked at it. "We need the crime scene unit here now," Officer Lillian said quietly into her radio. As they turned to head back to the house, Maya spotted something pink caught on a bush nearby. Before any of the adults could stop her, she darted over and reached for it. "Maya, don't touch anything." Grandma called out, but it was too late. In Maya's hand was a small pink hair bow, exactly like the ones her teacher, Miss Winters, often wore. Where did this come from? Maya wondered aloud. Officer Lillian gently took the hairball from Maya, placing it in a small evidence bag. Did you recognize this, Maya? She asked, her voice careful and measured. It looks like the kind my teacher wears, Maya said, confused by the urgent glance the officers exchanged. What's your teacher's name? Officer Lillian asked, taking out her notepad. Miss Winters. Amber Winters. She teaches 3rd grade at Pine Grove Elementary. The officers exchanged another look, and Officer Lillian spoke quietly into her radio again while the other officer urged them to return to the house immediately. As they walked back, Maya noticed more police cars arriving, their lights casting eerie blue and red patterns through the trees. Back at the house, Jacob was being prepared for transport to the hospital. A tall man in a suit who introduced himself as Detective Pearson was asking Grandma more questions in the kitchen. Through the window, Maya could see officers unrolling more yellow tape and setting up bright lights around the edge of the woods. Maya sat on the couch, feeling small and confused. She had done something good, hadn't she? Why did everyone look so worried? Officer Lillian sat down beside her and smiled, but her eyes remained serious. Maya, we need to ask you one more important question, she said softly. Did you see anyone else in the woods today? Anyone at all, even from a distance? Maya started to shake her head but then paused, remembering something. I think I saw someone walking away when I first heard the baby crying. I didn't see their face, just the back of their coat. It was dark green, like the trees. Detective Pearson, who had come into the room in time to hear Maya's answer, exchanged a meaningful look with Officer Lillian. One more thing, Maya, he said, showing her a photograph on his phone. Do you recognize this woman? Maya looked at the screen and gasped. The photo showed a smiling blonde woman standing in front of Pine Grove Elementary School. That's Miss Winters, Maya confirmed, her voice barely above a whisper. Is she in trouble? Detective Pearson tucked his phone away without answering her question. Thank you, Maya. You've been very helpful. Grandma came over and wrapped her arm protectively around Maya's shoulders. My granddaughter has school tomorrow. How much longer will this questioning go on? She won't be going to school tomorrow, Miss Johnson, Officer Lillian said gently. We need to temporarily close Pine Grove Elementary while we conduct our investigation. Maya looked up at her grandmother, confusion and fear battling inside her. But why? What did Miss Winters do? The adults exchanged glances over her head, a silent conversation that Maya couldn't understand but knew was about her. Maya, honey, Grandma said, why don't you go get ready for bed? It's getting late, and these nice officers still have work to do. Maya wanted to protest, she was part of this, after all, but the firm set of Grandma's mouth told her not to argue. As she headed toward the hallway, she heard Detective Pearson say in a low voice, we'll need to speak with her again tomorrow, preferably with a child psychologist present. In her bedroom, Maya changed into her pajamas but didn't get into bed. Instead, she cracked open her door just enough to hear the conversation in the living room. No record of any previous concerns, Detective Pearson was saying. Amber Winters has been teaching at Pine Grove for 6 years, exemplary record. The baby's parents? Grandma asked. They're on their way to the hospital now. The Millers live about 30 miles from here, across the county line. Father's a dentist, mother's a part-time nurse. No connection to Miss Winters that we can establish yet. But why would a teacher take someone's baby? Grandma's voice was tight with distress. Officer Lillian's voice was softer, harder to hear. We don't know that she did, ma'am. We're just following every lead. The hair bow could be a coincidence. With all due respect, officer, Grandma replied, in my 70 years, I've learned there's rarely such a thing as coincidence in matters this serious. Maya closed her door quietly and sat on her bed, hugging her knees to her chest. Miss Winters was the nicest teacher in the whole school. Last month, when Maya had forgotten her lunch, Miss Winters had shared her own sandwich. She wore pretty hair bows every day and read stories with different voices for each character. She couldn't have taken a baby from its parents. she just couldn't have. Yet the memory of the dark green coat walking away through the trees nagged at Maya. Miss Winters had a coat that color she'd worn it on the field trip to the Science Museum when it rained. A soft knock on her door startled Maya from her thoughts. Grandma entered, her face drawn with fatigue. "Are you supposed to be asleep, child?" she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Is Miss Winters going to jail?" Maya blurted out. Grandma sighed deeply. "I don't know, sweetheart. The police are just doing their job, trying to figure out what happened to that baby." "His name is Jacob," Maya corrected automatically. Grandma smiled sadly and stroked Maya's hair. "Yes, Jacob. His parents are with him at the hospital now. They're very grateful to you for finding him. But if Miss Winters took him, then I got her in trouble." Tears welled in Maya's eyes. "I didn't mean to." "Now you listen to me, Maya Johnson," Grandma said firmly, taking Maya's small hands in her weathered ones. "You did exactly the right thing. You found a baby who needed help and you brought him to safety. Whatever else comes of this is not your doing. You understand? Adults make their own choices and face their own consequences." Maya nodded, though the knot in her stomach didn't loosen. "Now get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be another long day. The police want to talk to you again, and there will be no school." After Grandma left, Maya tried to sleep but kept seeing Jacob's tiny face and hearing the urgency in the officers' voices when she mentioned Miss Winters. Eventually, she drifted into an uneasy sleep filled with dreams of dark woods and crying babies. Morning came too soon, announced by voices downstairs and the smell of Grandma's buttermilk pancakes. Maya dressed quickly and went to the kitchen, where she found Detective Pearson and a woman she didn't recognize sitting at the table with Grandma. "Good morning, Maya," Detective Pearson said. "This is Dr. Carter. She's going to sit with us while we talk a bit more about yesterday." Dr. Carter had kind eyes and a soft voice. "Hello, Maya. Your grandmother tells me you like to draw. I brought some paper and colored pencils we can use while we chat." Maya nodded cautiously and sat down at the table. Grandma placed a stack of pancakes in front of her, but Maya's appetite had vanished. "Maya," Detective Pearson began after she'd picked at her breakfast for a few minutes, "we arrested Miss Winters last night." Maya's fork clattered onto her plate. "You did?" "She was trying to leave town," he explained gently. "When we questioned her, she admitted to being in the woods yesterday." Dr. Carter pushed the paper and pencils toward Maya. "Could you draw what you remember seeing in the woods? Anything at all that seems important?" Maya picked up a pencil and began to draw the trees, the roots where she'd found Jacob, the path leading back to Grandma's house. As she drew, Detective Pearson continued talking. "Miss Winters has been going through a very difficult time," he said. "Did you know she lost a baby of her own recently?" Maya shook her head, her pencil pausing mid-stroke. "She never said anything about having a baby." "It was a private matter," Dr. Carter interjected softly. "Some things are too painful for people to talk about, even with those they care about." Maya resumed drawing, adding the butterfly she'd followed into the woods. "Is that why she took Jacob? Because she wanted a baby?" "We think so," Detective Pearson confirmed. "Sometimes when people are very sad or unwell, they make decisions that don't make sense to others." Maya thought about this as she colored in the dark green coat she'd glimpsed walking away. But why did she leave him in the woods? Why didn't she take him home? Detective Pearson and Dr. Carter exchanged a look that Maya couldn't interpret. "We're still trying to understand that," Dr. Carter said. "Sometimes people realize they've made a mistake but don't know how to fix it." "She could have brought him back to his parents," Maya said, frowning. "Yes, she should have," Detective Pearson agreed. "But she was afraid of getting in trouble." Maya finished her drawing and pushed it across the table. "I heard a car," she said suddenly, the memory surfacing as she looked at her artwork. "Before I found Jacob, it was far away, but I heard a car door slam." Detective Pearson sat up straighter. "You didn't mention this yesterday." "I forgot," Maya admitted. "Everything happened so fast." "Which direction did the sound come from?" he asked, pulling out his phone. Maya thought hard. That way, she said, pointing northwest past the old logging road. Detective Pearson immediately stood and stepped outside to make a call. Dr. Carter stayed at the table, asking Maya gentle questions about school. Had Miss Winters seemed different lately? Had she ever talked about babies or children besides her students? Maya remembered something. She was crying in the supply closet 2 weeks ago. I went to get more construction paper, and she was sitting on the floor crying. When she saw me, she said she had allergies, but I knew she was really sad. Dr. Carter nodded encouragingly. That was very observant of you, Maya. Detective Pearson returned, his face animated. We're sending a team to check the logging road. There might be tire tracks or other evidence. Just then, his phone rang. He answered it, listened intently, and his expression changed to one of confusion. Are you certain? He asked the caller. Both of them? I see. Yes, we'll need to verify this immediately. He ended the call and looked at Grandma and Dr. Carter with a troubled expression. There's been a development, he said carefully. The hospital ran routine tests on Jacob last night, including a DNA comparison with the parents. Is something wrong with the baby? Grandma asked, concern evident in her voice. No, the baby is healthy, Detective Pearson assured her. But the DNA results show that neither Thomas nor Elaine Miller is biologically related to the infant. Maya looked between the adults, not fully understanding. But I thought they were Jacob's parents. They believe they were, Detective Pearson said. They've been raising him since bringing him home from the hospital 6 weeks ago. So whose baby is he? Grandma asked, voicing the question Maya was thinking. Detective Pearson rubbed his forehead. That's what we need to find out. And there's one more thing. The hospital records show that Amber Winters gave birth to a baby boy almost exactly 6 weeks ago, a baby she claimed was stillborn. A heavy silence fell over the kitchen. Maya didn't understand everything, but she knew enough to realize that something very complicated was happening. Are you saying Grandma began, her voice trailing off as she glanced at Maya? Detective Pearson nodded slightly. It's a possibility we have to investigate. Dr. Carter suggested, perhaps you could take Maya to the living room while I discuss some details with Miss Johnson. Maya opened her mouth to protest. She hated when adults sent her away to talk about grown-up things, but Grandma's firm look silenced her. She reluctantly followed Dr. Carter to the living room, where the doctor suggested they draw another picture together. I'm not a baby, you know, Maya said, picking up a blue pencil anyway. I know they think Miss Winters' baby didn't really die and Jacob might be her real baby. Dr. Carter's eyebrows rose slightly, but she nodded. You're a very smart girl, and you're right. That is one possibility the police are looking into. But why would Miss Winters take her own baby from the Millers if he was hers in the first place? And how did the Millers get her baby? Maya asked, drawing spirals on her paper as her mind tried to work through the puzzle. Those are excellent questions, Dr. Carter said, and that's exactly what Detective Pearson is trying to figure out. From the kitchen, Maya could hear her grandmother's voice rising in concern, though she couldn't make out the words. Whatever Detective Pearson was telling her had Grandma upset. After what seemed like forever but was probably only 15 minutes, Detective Pearson called them back to the kitchen. His face was grim, and Grandma looked pale. Maya, he said, we're going to need to talk to Miss Winters again, and we think it might help if you came with us. Me? Maya's eyes widened. Why me? Sometimes people find it easier to tell the truth when confronted with someone who witnessed part of what happened, Dr. Carter explained. You were there in the woods, Maya. You saw something important. Grandma placed her hands on Maya's shoulders. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, baby girl. It's asking a lot. But Maya thought about baby Jacob, about the Millers who thought he was their son, and about Miss Winters crying in the supply closet. I want to help, she said firmly. An hour later, Maya sat beside Dr. Carter in a small room at the police station. The walls were a pale yellow with pictures of flowers hanging on them, clearly an attempt to make the space less intimidating. Grandma waited outside after insisting on being able to see Maya through the one-way glass that Detective Pearson had explained was an observation window. Miss Winters will be brought in shortly, Detective Pearson told them. Maya, you don't need to say anything if you don't want to. Just being here might be enough. Maya nodded, her stomach fluttering with nervousness. She'd never seen anyone who'd been arrested before. When the door opened, Maya almost didn't recognize her teacher. Miss Winters' usual neat appearance was disheveled, her blonde hair tangled, her face pale and blotchy from crying, her clothes wrinkled. Her hands were cuffed in front of her. When she saw Maya, she stopped in her tracks, her red-rimmed eyes filling with fresh tears. Maya, she whispered. What is she doing here? Please sit down, Miss Winters, Detective Pearson said, gesturing to the chair across from Maya and Dr. Carter. A female officer guided Miss Winters to the seat and then stood by the door. Miss Winters, Detective Pearson began, we've learned some new information, and we'd like to give you an opportunity to explain what really happened. Miss Winters stared at her cuffed hands, saying nothing. We know that 6 weeks ago, you gave birth at Riverside Memorial, he continued. The hospital records show you delivered a healthy baby boy, but you claimed he died shortly after birth. Miss Winters' shoulders began to shake with silent sobs. The next day, Thomas and Elaine Miller welcomed a newborn son at the same hospital, a son who, according to DNA